Welcome to the Dynamic Duo podcast. I'm Connor.
And I'm Jasmine.
And this is the first ever episode, and we are so excited because there's so much going on right now.
I was kind of worried because the beginning of the summer is so front loaded.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's going to be too many things to look out for, too many things to watch. And honestly, I've been enjoying it.
I think it's been a great summer so far. Obviously, this is our first episode. We're very excited to jump into it, but I wanted to give a quick introduction. My name's Connor. Like I said earlier, you might know me online as Connorville. I have been following movies, anime, TV for a couple years now, heavily on Marvel. So we're going to be talking a ton of superheroes and stuff here. And this is my co-host, Jasmine.
I'm Jasmine Estrada. You might know me from some of the Marvel podcasts. I was the producer on a couple different shows, including the official Marvel podcast and Marvel Method, hosted by Method Man. And my bona fides, for the most part, are I am mostly Marvel. I do dabble with DC here and there. I think you are probably the bigger DC fan out of the two of us, so I'm going to be learning a lot from you. But not only did I work at Marvel, as you can see, this is my collection. I love comics. I've been reading comics since I was maybe 11.
Yeah.
So I'm in it deep.
And it is a huge library behind us. It is so crazy being here every time. There are so many recognizable and cool comics here. It is going to be very exciting. But obviously today what we have come to talk about is Supergirl. Supergirl has just dropped, and it is not doing that great right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I am slightly disappointed because out of the few DC comics that I've read and characters that I follow, Supergirl is one of those. As confusing as her background is, it is one of those, and I was really looking forward to this, and I'm kind of bummed out by it.
I don't know how I feel about it. I obviously thought it was an interesting choice to do Supergirl directly after Superman. Woman of Tomorrow is a great comic, but I don't know. Supergirl was just an interesting choice for the second big movie for the DC universe.
For sure. I was always worried when they announced the slate and they were like, and Supergirl's following Superman. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, that's I mean, don't get me wrong, I was excited. I'm Supergirl, but at the same time I'm like, if you're gonna build an entire new universe, that's the second pillar you're gonna start with.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious. I want to see what you're gonna build, but then my fears were kind of realized, and I was a little bit disappointed with that.
Yeah, we'll get into a full review in just a couple minutes, but I just want to really talk about just the interesting nature of Supergirl because I mean, her comics are very confusing. She gets rebooted constantly. And so I feel like even if someone like you, who is a bigger fan of Supergirl in the comics, it's hard to pinpoint and describe exactly who she is as a character. And that can make it even harder to portray on screen.
Agreed. And I think that's why, choosing Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, as a comic that they wanted to adapt to introduce this character to the world on the big screen was a good idea. That comic distills so much of who Supergirl is, including some of the wacky stuff. If you read the comic and if you've read the comics, she's got some weird stuff that happens in the 90s where she becomes an angel and grows wings that are on fire. She has a romantic interest that's a horse. All that stuff is kind of brought into Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and is very intricately woven.
Yeah.
And so it made sense. I was like, yeah, of course. Let's do it. Let's bring the True Grit vibe of the comic into the movies. I wanted to see that. And like you said, we're getting into the reviews in a minute. Let's not. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. So speaking of that, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate Supergirl?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably give her, I'm leaning towards a 6. Probably closer to a 5. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I felt like it was right about a 6.5, maybe a 7 if you were going with the right people. Because, when I walked out of that movie, I definitely felt a little disappointed. But I also felt like I could already think of so many people in my life who don't read comics who might enjoy this movie.
Same.
I thought it was a good enough time to kind of stand on its own. But I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I do have problems with it.
I have a lot of concerns with like some of the choices that were made. I think my biggest issue is, and we'll dive into it more in a little bit, but like is that there were certain decisions like the fact that Supergirl was the second movie that was coming out of DCU, out of the DCU, you had the chance to like platform a female director
True.
and you didn't do it.
True. True. True.
And
True.
that to me was a bold choice. What especially when you look at what the MCU has been doing and like this movie, if I'm being honest, like it reminded me a lot of Love and Thunder
Mm.
because Love and Thunder again, the source material that it was covering, like Gore the God Butcher, was
True.
so good and there's so rich and there's so many things there and like there's a lot of parallels between these two because like that whole arc in the Thor comics also follows Thor traveling to all these different planets. You get to see all these different like cultures and personalities and like crazy aliens and like it looks gorgeous. And we didn't get to see any of that in Love and Thunder.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was so funny. I still remember in Love and Thunder, the trailer showed all these comic shots, and
Yes.
it was like, oh, they're doing
Like
it.
I'll never forget. Like there was a clear shot of Assad Ribic's like art. Like that
Yeah.
was like a full splash page, and I was like, I'm seeing that for the first time on
Yes.
screen. That's amazing.
Yes.
Same thing happened here, where I was like, oh, we're getting the story, we're getting these like beats, and like you would see it in the trailer, like everything from like the beginning where it's like Crypto's hurt, like we're
Yeah.
going to go on a mission to save him,
Yeah.
and like they just fumbled like the
I
full
know.
delivery of it
I
all.
know. And I also have to point out is that this movie is a surf Dracula. Like all
Ooh.
of the shots in the trailer of her in the Supergirl suit are at the very end of this movie. And I hate that because again, in Woman of Tomorrow, she proudly embraces that suit. She wears it 24/7 in the comic. And it's just so annoying to still be in 20 like in the big 2026 we still have to wait until the very end of the movie for her to embrace her costume and everything, and I did think it served a good enough purpose in the story of the movie, but it's just not needed. Like
Yeah.
when they showed the first promo images, it's her in the Supergirl outfit with the trench coat,
Hmm.
and I could be wrong, maybe it happens at the very end of the movie, but she never actually wears that. Like she wears the trench coat,
She wears the trench coat. Yeah.
she wears the Supergirl suit. She never wears them together in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just disappointing because that's a cool fit. She could have worn that the whole
Agreed.
movie, and she just doesn't. It's just regular clothes the whole movie.
Yeah, and I do think that like there is a difference between the comics and the movie because in the comics it takes place well into her like career as Supergirl.
Yeah.
Whereas the movie is like we're just getting the introduction to this character, which I understand that, but I agree with you. Like I think that the lack of the costume, or at least like even just like making it a bigger theme in the movie, like if
Yeah.
she doesn't want to put it on right away because she
Yeah.
thinks it's corny, tacky, like I love that. Like, I think that that's a clever way of like distinguishing her from her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that we don't get it until the very end, like
Yes.
that was like it didn't even feel earned. Like
Mm-mm.
to me, I'm like, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna hold out on us, like that reminds me of Amazing Spider-Man, where we didn't get to see Andrew Garfield wear the suit until
Right.
the
Oh my
last like what
God.
15 minutes of the movie. I'll
Yeah.
never forget going to the
So
theater and seeing it.
embarrassing. It is so embarrassing to see. And that is definitely one of my biggest problems. But I have three problems that specifically come to mind that I want to just like tackle with you
Hit
real
me.
quick. And the first one is definitely the ending of this movie.
Okay.
Like I somewhere in the making of this movie, they got confused because it's clear they didn't understand the ending of the comic.
I agree.
You know,
1000%.
and it's very disappointing to see Supergirl kill him at the end of this movie. And I think it completely takes away like almost what the whole movie is trying to teach the audience. And I think it gives the general audience a bad impression of Supergirl at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And when you read the comic and you realize why she took the sword from her and why she's about to kill Krem, it's like it all serves a purpose to teach a lesson. And when she actually does it in the movie, it's like, then what lesson are you actually teaching?
Right. And we should establish like what the differences are between the comic and the movie, because the comic is told, like the narration is told by Ruthie. So we're getting an unreliable narrator who's telling the story from the future. Like there's like we're talking like hundreds of years into the future. She is retelling the story of how she first met Supergirl, and essentially what ends up happening is Supergirl it goes on this quest with her in order to show her that revenge isn't the way. Like you're not gonna get any type of satisfaction. There's not gonna be any closure. Like killing someone isn't revenge. Like you shouldn't live your life that way. And in the movie, that obviously doesn't happen. But the biggest difference is the end. The end, like you said, we have Ruthie, who when they like essentially defeat Krem at first,
Yeah.
Supergirl sends Krem into the Phantom Zone, and like he's there for like 300 years.
Yeah.
And during that time, like he ages but also reforms. And so 300 years pass. The last issue ends where we are no longer in the past, we're in the present or the future for us. And during that time, Supergirl brings Krem out because he's reformed and he's seeking forgiveness from Ruthie, and Ruthie is like absolutely not. But rather than killing him, she kind of just like bonks him on the head. He like falls on his back, and then we learn that like through narration she's saying, and that's when I killed him.
Yeah.
And you're seeing two different things. Like what you're reading and what you're seeing are two different things. And like the reason why I bring this up is because I have been in multiple reading clubs for this comic and this graphic novel. Like, and every single time I've talked about the ending, I've noticed in the room that multiple people have different interpretations, even though it's clear.
Yeah.
It's just more of a like, what did you want the ending to be?
Right.
And so like a lot of the times, I want to say like at least half of the people came into the room being like, she killed him. Like, why did she, like, that defeated the whole purpose of the story. And I'm like, no, she didn't kill him. If you pay attention, like,
Yeah.
he's still alive. And she just tells a different story. And I think that like emotional beat is missing from this story.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you saw the Hollywood Reporter article where they interviewed the screenwriter, and she straight up is quoted saying that like, yeah, in the comic, like Ruthie kills Krem, and it's like, oh, you didn't understand it fundamentally.
I know. Well, we'll get into the Hollywood Reporter comic, or we'll get into the Hollywood Reporter article in a minute because there's so much to talk about there. But it blows my mind that so many people could have worked on this and no one brings up that the ending is being misinterpreted.
Yes.
That is like, especially looking at this as a new universe, a new cinematic universe, that's scary. That is
Absolutely.
scary to misread the source material that hard.
But not only that, it's also like scary that like so here's the thing that like I loved and I hated about this, right? Like they promoted the movie alongside the comic so well.
I know.
Like when I went to go see the movie in theaters, they handed me a copy of issue number 1.
Which is
of that
great.
shit.
They
And
should
I
be doing that
love
with
that.
every superhero.
I agree. And so like I would not be this upset about them misinterpreting the ending, because like if they want to make a decision on the end, that's up to them. Like
Yeah.
that's a creative choice that I'm willing to like. That's not my choice. That's their choice. Like whatever. But the fact that like they were pushing this comic book and being like, this is a story we're telling, like come read the comic, like here's the first issue, like you're introducing people to this comic and you didn't even like interpret it correctly.
I know. And like when we're talking about interpretations, I hated the way that they interpreted Krem in this movie. I really think they missed the point and added on all of these extra layers to him that, you know, they're adding these on to try and make him more brutal, but what they're actually doing is what's taking away from what makes him so scary as a person, and that is the fact that he's just a henchman.
Yeah, he's a normal human being.
Yes, he's just a swordsman who now believes he has a bigger purpose in life because of all of these crazy events that he shouldn't have lived through. And, you know, when you add like trafficking and just being a weird gangster. Yes, it's just like it's low-hanging fruit, you know, to make the audience understand that hey, this guy's like extra evil and you should hate him, when it's kind of like the ending still where, you know, let the audience walk out and interpret these things. Like if you had just done Krem as just a regular swordsman who is just a henchman who happens to be at the right place at the wrong time, like constantly, and he just keeps messing with people, I think people would walk out of the theaters being like, that's a scary dude.
Yeah.
Because he has no motive, because he has no purpose, and now he thinks he's special. And it's just like the ending where I just think wires got crossed, and it's like, I think you're missing the point of what this story is actually trying to convey. And you know, at the end of the day, I think it's cheap to throw this stuff in there.
I genuinely wonder when it came to like actually making this movie and like really writing out who Krem was, if like some higher up came in and was like, "What's a superpower?"
Yeah.
and they were like, "He doesn't really have one," and so then they
Yes.
like, because like what you're saying is exactly right. Like the Guardians of the Galaxyification of Krem, to me, like I if you
And I hate that. I hate saying that, but it is true. I hate saying the Guardians of the Galaxy likeification of this movie,
But
but
it's
it does
true.
feel that
But
way.
like I literally like I when I went to go see this movie, I asked, like, people were talking to me about like the villain and stuff like that, and I kept on calling him Taserface. And like
Yeah,
I called him
yeah,
Taserface like out of like I don't remember his name. Like even from the comic book, I was just like the Taserface looking dude. And it's like
yeah,
he didn't have to even look like that. Like the decisions of like who this character were and like his motives went down to his design. And like if you look at the comic, he's just a regular dude. There's no crazy like piercings, none of that.
yeah,
And I fear that they wanted to like really showcase like, oh, these are different aliens, like different planets, but like ultimately that stuff just kind of fell flat for me
yeah.
because
It actually does nothing
show,
for
don't
his
tell me,
character.
like show,
Yes,
don't tell me, like I don't need to like you don't have to show me this ugly, evil looking man. Just
yes.
that's what made Krem who he was in the comic was
It had me excited in the very beginning where it's just by chance that he runs into Kara's ship, and it's just because he's evil, he
yeah.
shoots the dart at Crypto, and I'm like, this is great. But he's already a part of this group, which he shouldn't be a part of. And then now this group is this big like child trafficking ring, and that's his whole profit and stuff. And it's just like, it's fine to add. I get that what you're saying is this guy is evil and cruel, but it's also just like he does so much in the comic just from being at the right place and seeing an opportunity to be
Mhm.
evil that I think that's what makes him creepier when you finish the comic.
And
And
also
that,
like when you get the beat where he's remorseful, it's like he's learned
yes.
his ways, and it's like
Yes. But we don't even get like,
there's no redeeming
we're
a
talking about that ending with whatever being like older and stuff and forgiving him or killing him and that being misinterpreted. That's not even in this
no,
movie.
not at
Like
all.
they don't even do that extra ending that they do in the like extended edition of the comic. Like they just misinterpret the moment where Supergirl is about to kill him and then says no. Like this was all a lesson. Like it's such a weird thing. And that really the the other super weird thing that I really hate to say that I hated is Lobo.
I was gonna ask you, what did you think about Lobo?
I did not like Lobo in this movie. I didn't like him. Obviously, I have been dying for Jason Momoa to be Lobo. I
Obviously,
think that
yeah.
is the perfect pick. There was something wrong about him in this movie. It was like a PG Marvel-esque version of Lobo, and I don't know why. It's like, he's not using the correct language, which is whatever, but it's just he's more of like a friendly giant
Hmm.
in this movie. And
Look, there's a version of this movie that like when they first pitched Lobo in this movie, I was like, you know what? Fine, we don't need it
yeah,
because like I think Supergirl can stand on her own. I don't even
absolutely.
think we needed a Clark in this movie.
Absolutely.
And like I was willing to accept it because I'm like, you know what? It's gonna get people excited because Lobo's a very fan favorite like character from the DC like comics, and like everybody's been wanting to see Jason Momoa. Like
Yeah.
I understand, but there's a scene that like could have happened in this movie that like I wanted to see. Like you told me Lobo was gonna be in a Supergirl movie. I'm like, great. The thing that Lobo and Supergirl both share in common is that they both come from worlds where like their entire race of people have been decimated, and that was a theme in this movie. Like
Yeah.
that was a theme where that she was still kind of like dealing with that, and she's very much grieving, and that's a part of the comic as well. And it's like if you would have given me a scene like where we have both Supergirl and Lobo kind of talking about that, and even if they feel different about what happened, like that would tell me so much more about each character.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're gonna bring that character, like that's where you have that exposition. Like we didn't get a moment where Supergirl was like, "This is all." I mean, like we did see it in flashbacks, but we didn't get to see her pain in the
Right.
in the current like timeline.
But this is what I'm talking about, where it just felt like this weird version of Lobo, because after seeing this interpretation, there's no way we're ever getting a real moment with this guy. He's always going to be used for laughs or just a ridiculous, overpowered version. And if he does show up the next time and he's acting more serious and they can have a heartfelt conversation, it's going to be insane
Yeah, like
whiplash.
don't get me wrong, like I'm not expecting Lobo to like necessarily have a heartfelt conversation, but like
But
even
at
if he
least
was
understand that
yeah,
trauma of like, oh, we're both from the same kind of
or even
thing.
like push back and be like, why are you like you're amazing, like you get to
Right.
live the world or the rest of the galaxy as
Like we're
superpower.
both gods,
Yeah,
you
like
know?
why are you so sad about like that would have given me something, and
Right.
there was just nothing here. The other thing about Lobo is like two things. If you're gonna have Lobo in your movie, if you're gonna have a character like that, a side character that's a male hero, how are you gonna have him saving the main character? Like coming in and saving the main character in one of the biggest fights was like it's just such a I don't that was massive disappointment. Like I literally like I out loud like groaned in the theater.
Yeah.
And not only that, but to also have him call her tits in his own movie.
Bro, I was just going to bring that up. He doesn't actually call her tits, right?
No, he does.
No. Like, that is so messed up. There's no way. I feel like I've seen some people say it was something else, but I remember seeing that in the theater and
I
just
walked out
looking at
thinking
my
it was.
friends being like, no way he just called her tits,
No,
right?
I walked out fully being like, he called Supergirl tits in her own movie. And
I
don't.
think, no, you know what? I think I saw someone say he says dits. But
That's
I
not any
swear,
better.
I know,
Like-
I know, but I swear to God, I feel like everyone walked out of that theater hearing tits.
I heard tits.
And it's just so, like, why even leave that room for space to, like, have people misinterpret
And like,
that?
I get it. Lobo's like a very edgelordy character. Like,
But why not say, like, biznatch or something? Like, something more
can I ask
recognizable than
you-
tits.
I mean, like, I've read Lobo comics not my entire life, but like, I've read him in multiple different series of
Yeah.
comics, whatever, throughout the years. And like, how do you like pronounce his like, instead of saying, when he says bitch,
Yeah.
he doesn't say bitch, he says like the alien version of it.
I always read it as, like, biznatch or something like
Really?
that.
I always thought it was Bastiche.
Pastiche? Oh, I feel like I've heard a voice actor say pastiche too.
Yeah, and then like he kind of like the first time he says it, I was like, wait, what did he say?
But he has a couple phrases in the comics. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank now. And I know he says one of them in this movie.
I know he says one. I don't remember which. I
But,
thought it was
like,
Bastiche.
But it's like it's too rare, like for that to even happen. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be the first thing he says as he's walking into the bar. But I also would have loved to have him maybe mention. I know we don't need it in this movie, but see Supergirl and then mention Superman, like because their confrontations in the animated movie, in the comics. I love Superman versus Lobo. That is such a great fight to see, and I feel like even in this universe, that would be great to see. Like, and he could just show up at any time. But I don't know. That's more wishful thinking. It's not like I'm knocking the movie for that. I just think Jason Momoa in this movie, it's like maybe it's my fault for I've wanted this
That's
for
what I was gonna ask
15
you.
years.
Like to
you know,
me, like I do think that there was this overhypeness around
Yes.
him as Lobo, which like I get it. Like it writes itself.
Of
on
course.
paper, but like when you see it, like it very much like I don't know, it falls a little flat.
I also feel like this was maybe something that could have worked better. And I'm not trying to be mean to Jason or anything, but maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
I can see
I
that.
don't know if he really works
Well, he's also a relic of like the '90s. Like
right.
he's like dead.
Right.
He's like DC's Deadpool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where he's like very much a creation of the '90s, very edgelord, very like making fun of like the universe, making fun of
Yeah.
the characters, very
Yeah.
tongue in cheek, and like that stuff like can work. Like we've seen it with Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, but like at the same time, like we've seen a lot of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and it's like where do you draw the line? Like where does it get a little too like, all right, this has been done before, like the gimmick's over.
Right. I really don't know because I feel like you don't do something like this without having him probably at least promised that you'll be back.
Yeah.
You'll be continuously showing up as Lobo in different projects and stuff. And, knowing how this DC universe is going, probably even get his own project at a certain point. But, I guess it's just something we got to wait to see. I just don't think his first introduction in the DCU should have been in
I
Supergirl,
agree.
and I don't think it really put their best foot forward
I
with the
agree.
character.
Now we've obviously been pretty negative on the movie,
Yeah.
but like we gave it a 5. but we gave it a 5 for a reason. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
are the, I guess, if those were all our thorns with the movie, like,
Yeah.
what is the rose?
It's Millie. I mean, Millie is the saving grace of this movie. Like, she is so perfect as the embodiment of Supergirl just by looks and how she actually carries herself as the character. I think every time she's on scene, it's like, this is exactly how I picture
Mhm.
Supergirl.
I think it's two things. Like, I agree. Like, she's perfect as Supergirl, and I think we've seen so many different versions of Supergirl throughout the years. Like, not in movies necessarily. I mean, unless you count the '80s movie, but even
Right.
then, like, you're getting a much more, clean cut Supergirl. But like, there's been so many versions of Supergirl through animated series and comics and stuff like that. Like, I think they did a really good job at casting Supergirl, but
Yes.
also like picking a lane and being like, this is the version we're gonna do. And by like making a more messier, grittier, like more like I don't want to say like she's not remorseful, but like by making her more like
I feel like they made her more. I know Superman's whole point in his last movie was like, he's human.
yes,
I think they did an even better job of showing the struggles of humanity with Supergirl.
I agree.
Like, Superman has his own battle in his movie of just wanting to be accepted as a human. Kara is like, it doesn't matter. She feels what humans feel. Like, she doesn't need to go through it. You can see from the first scene when she's lazy in bed with her dog and just like the depression is clearly like in her, that like that's her.
Mhm.
She is way more on that human level than Clark,
I feel like I mean you're using human, but I would say like Kryptonian, right? Like
Right.
not I'm not
Just
trying
I
to
guess just more comfortable with her
right.
like
Like she's
feelings and stuff.
experienced the life, whereas
Yes.
like Clark was on Earth and like grew up. And like I do want to ask you, what did you think about the switch up where we in the comics, Kara is older than Clark. And there's a
Yeah.
weird time dilation thing because of the way that they travel to space,
Yeah.
where like Clark is older when they get to Earth.
Yep.
But in this movie, we see that Kara comes to Earth well after. Like Clark has been there and like she's already grown up on Krypton and like
Yeah.
goes through all the stuff with not Kandor, but her home planet. The like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, so are they supposed to be same age in this?
no, so in the comics, Supergirl gets sent as a teenager. So
Right. And
Clark
she comes younger, but she's still the
yeah, so
older
Clark
sibling.
Clark is a baby when he gets sent off from Krypton.
Right.
He arrives at Earth and then he grows up. But
Right.
Kara essentially gets sent as a teenager
Mm-hmm.
and then gets to Earth and is younger than
Yep.
Clark is, even though Clark is older technically or younger in
Right. Is
in
that not how they're doing it in this movie?
no, it seems like what they're doing is Kara is or they Kara was born
Still
after
older?
no, Kara was born after Clark.
Uh-huh.
Clark gets sent off. And then the parents decide to send her off after the fact. So this is like well after Krypton like just gets destroyed, which is like still kind of in the canon, but
Bro.
it's just like again, it's to me it's a nitpicky thing. If
Why
you're-
complicate it like that?
I don't think it's necessary. I think that what they did was they simplified it.
Yeah.
Because I think in the comics it's messy because comics are comics, whatever. But like in the movie, they sort of simplified it so that like rather than having to wonder who's older, they're just like Kara's younger, don't worry about it. And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah, but I do think it's a nice detail, like in the comics and in the animated show, that, that's her younger cousin that she sees get shipped off. She basically gets frozen in time
Yeah.
for 20 some years and then shows up. And it's like she feels this responsibility of
Yeah.
being the older cousin, but now her younger cousin is now 10 years older than
Yeah.
her. And it's a nice little dynamic that I appreciate,
Yeah.
but I guess I can see for the purpose of this movie why that would make sense.
Yeah, you just simplify it, and it like to me that was okay. And like that's probably my rose is like seeing all the flashbacks where we're
Yeah.
like seeing her first getting to Earth and like interacting with
That
her.
was great.
That stuff was
Yes.
so good.
And that's where, with the roses, we're talking about Millie, I'm hearing that she has a ton of screen time in Man of Tomorrow.
I believe it.
And that gets me excited. I think her being back on Earth with Superman, fighting Lex Luthor, doing all this other stuff in the larger story as a supporting character, I think that's like going to be a great role for her. And I think everyone, I think there's gonna be a revision next year
I
when
agree.
she like kills it in Man of Tomorrow, and everyone's gonna be like, why didn't I give Supergirl a chance? And they're
Yeah.
gonna be more lighthearted on it.
Can I tell you my theory?
What?
Okay, so the only way that like I will fully eat my words on Supergirl if they decide to go with this like plan moving forward. So like the the biggest difference between the comic and the movie
hmm
is that Supergirl kills Krem.
hmm
And that's a choice.
Yes.
Like not only is that a choice because it's different from what happens in the comic, but it distinguishes her from Clark.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know about you, but when I was introduced to Supergirl, like I didn't get into Supergirl comics until the New 52, which came out in like the early 2010s.
Uh-huh.
Now, in that story, we get a young Kara arriving. It's like a reboot. So like if you're looking for a place to start
And
reading,
you stand on the New 52
I
Supergirl.
love New 52
Yeah,
Supergirl.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
you have hate, which I'm probably sure a lot of you do, let's go for it. I don't care. Like I like bring it. I think it's a good. So what happens? Let me explain. So what happens in this comic in the New 52 is it's a full reboot. And one of the biggest changes that we get is we do get to see a lot of this grieving Supergirl, grieving Kara. Like she is very sad about the fact that like she saw, her home die and she got to experience like she lived on Krypton. And one of the biggest differences that they make is that she goes back to Argus, which let me just double check that's the name of the city. Uh So one of the biggest differences in the New 52 is that she travels back to Argus City, which if you watched Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, you see it's that like island planet, right? She goes back there and she wants to see like the destruction of Krypton. And she sees it all and she can't really see a way out. And one of the things that comes out of that story arc is that like one, Brainiac, see where my brain's going with this, right? Brainiac comes into this and essentially introduces us to Cyborg Superman. And that Cyborg Superman is her dad.
Right.
Which
Yep.
isn't the original Cyborg Superman. Like it's a completely different Cyborg Superman, but we see this like very vengeful version of Zor-El, which is to me very interesting because like now you have someone who gets turned into this cyborg Superman by Brainiac, and she is dealing with it like there's a physical like reaction to her having to deal with this now. It's not just like a metaphorical thing or like an emotional thing. Like now she has to deal with like this ghost of Krypton.
Yeah.
But not only that, that whole arc and like her feelings towards Krypton being destroyed, and like there's a bunch of other stuff where she dates a Kryptonian that like also survived, that turns evil. It's a whole thing. But like she is so mad and so angry at like where her life has gone and is very much like in this revenge mode that a Red Lantern ring appears
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and is granted to her. And then we get a whole arc where she's a Red Lantern, which like I know is not everyone's favorite story, but to me that is chef's kiss because like it makes sense. She lost
Yeah.
her entire planet, her entire home. Like why wouldn't she have that level of like dread and anger and like just want to let it out? And when she's the Red Lantern, it causes problems. And I my theory is that that's kind of where they're going to go with this. I don't know if she's going to go full Red Lantern, but like there's a version of the story where like if they're going to bring Brainiac in the next chapter and Supergirl is going to play a major part, like that is a massive story. Like and like I'm sorry, James Gunn loves like an early 2010s comic book story. Like let's be real.
That's true. That's true. I would like that. That would be I I don't even know if I can wrap my head around them doing all that, especially the Cyborg Superman, but that would be insane. That would be really cool to see her with a Red Lantern. And it does give me hope that there is a Lantern show right after Supergirl.
Yeah.
Like, and Atrocitus is in that show. So Red Lanterns totally exist. And I think, especially with the aspect that they've gone with Superman's parents,
Yes.
where it's clear that Supergirl's parents and everyone else kind of knows that maybe they actually were evil. And I don't know. I really don't know because I hate this route they're going. But like that could explain Kara having even more anger if maybe Jor-El showed up and was the cyborg Superman and just like willingly gave his body to Brainiac because they're evil, you
Yeah.
know, and not only would Superman have to battle that, but Kara can have like anger towards it because she knows he's responsible for blowing
Well,
up
let's put it this
Krypton.
way: if Brainiac discovers Argus City, right,
Mhm.
he's gonna want to preserve it. One, because it's got some level of like Kryptonian biology on that planet, and he's
Yeah.
gonna want it. And like, there's it writes itself, right? Like you can see him kind of like at the very end of the life of Argus City,
Yeah.
kind of like whoever's alive, like try to bring someone back to life, like Azor-El, and like wanting to bring him, even if it means adding cybernetics to him. I mean, like he doesn't have to be in this movie. I don't necessarily, I'm not saying that I need him in this movie, but
Yeah.
like there's a version of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, where the post-credit scene could have been the Red Ring showing up, and like that would have made the ending so much better for me,
Yeah.
because then it would have justified her killing someone.
Okay, I see how that all tied together. Yeah, I think that is the one of the only few justifiable ways to make killing him make sense is if
Yes.
she is heading down a dark path
Or
and is
she's like
going to
still
get a red
processing
ring.
this, like,
Yeah.
right, like showing that like she's not over the fact that Krypton, like that she lost everything.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
okay. Like I think that that's a valid thing to show, and I feel like this is just like, again, like this is in my perfect world where this movie still works and is
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah,
and
yeah,
is a
yeah.
10 out of 10. Like it is just chapter 1 of Supergirl's story, where it's like we're getting introduced to this girl who we think is, truth, justice, and like, a better tomorrow, and
Yeah.
then we meet someone who is like actually like, no, I'm going to murder this man.
I like it. I like that a lot.
You mentioned this earlier, but what did you think of the Hollywood Reporter article?
Brutal. Brutal. We are back in 2015, like DCU territory, DCEU territory. It is brutal right now.
Explain.
Okay, so the Hollywood Reporter article just came out. I'll give a summarized. You can tell us all the actual information in it because you got it up. This Hollywood Reporter article essentially says there are two versions of this movie: a James Gunn version and why am I blanking on his name?
Craig Gillespie.
Craig Gillespie version. It just doesn't make sense why this keeps happening at Warner Brother and DC, and it gets to the point where the Craig Gillespie version is 11 minutes longer.
Yeah.
And it just like, how does this happen?
Yeah, so it sounds like Craig Gillespie's edit had about 11 minutes more, and like the big thing was that it had a little bit more of creme,
Yeah.
which like honestly I don't really need.
No.
So like I'm not too upset about it,
Yeah.
but I am like, I mean, I'm not surprised that there are multiple cuts of this movie. Like that happens all the time. And like they tested them out, and like they wanted to see which one was better, and like most notably like there are certain song choices that are different between the two different cuts. But I agree, like it gave, I got like massive DC like you whiplash, where I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like are we gonna start like another petition for a Gillespie cut? Like I don't want that
No.
necessarily here, and like not that I wanted it before, but like it does seem kind of messy that this is out in the public, especially because it is the second movie of this new franchise.
And there is something weird going on with DC where this Hollywood Reporter article is like the fourth one to come out since this movie's dropped. Like there have been Hollywood Reporter articles, Variety articles, just all talking about how this movie is A, not doing well, or B, it was terrible behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it just really blows my mind because I remember last year when they had announced that filming was already wrapped and they're going to get a full year to edit this movie.
Yeah.
It was like everyone was saying, this is how you do a movie. You give the editors their time. You have a tight script and all of this. You know what you're supposed to do. So it just felt like everything was lining up perfectly for this movie. And now all these rumors are coming out that like, I don't know. It just seemed like it was a nightmare behind the scenes.
Right. Like this article to me was like a lot of finger pointing, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's trying to figure out like what went wrong with this movie. And I understand that. And like a lot of people are going to be pointing at each other because they don't want to take the blame. They don't want to
Right.
take the hit.
Right.
I get that. But the biggest thing for me is like the edit, the cut, like however that was cut. That's one aspect of it. Like that's not my issue. Like the way that the movie was cut, like there's one particular cut that like to me just felt really weird.
Yeah.
And it's during that big fight where Lobo shows up, and it's just like what happened. But
yeah.
to me, the issue isn't in necessarily that part of the movie. The issue is in the script. And like for James Gunn praising Bear, go away.
Bear, you gotta leave,
Sit,
buddy.
sit, lay down.
Lay down.
You lay down? Lay down.
It's gotta be with mama. Go on the couch. You were doing so good.
Go lay down.
Go on.
Up, up, up. There you go. Good boy.
Good job.
So like obviously there's a lot of finger pointing. Like everyone's trying to figure out why this movie bombed the way that it did.
Yeah.
Everyone's pointing fingers internally, and I get that. Like, even in that Hollywood Reporter article, like James Gunn and crew were like, no, this is like the normal back and forth, which like I believe to
Yeah.
some extent. But like the issue to me isn't in the cut. Like there are certain parts in this movie where I'm like, okay, this was kind of a weird, almost like bad edit.
Mm-hmm.
But like I can forgive that. The issue, but like because the issue for me is the script. And like for a movie like this to come out and like suffer this badly after James Gunn praised the script, like he came out like from the beginning of the DCU was like, guys, like we're not gonna greenlight a movie unless we have like a solid gold script. And I'm like, I want to see what that script looked like, because like you greenlit this movie and it still looked like that. And
There are so many scary aspects to that. Like they paused production on
Yeah.
other projects because they said this script was so good.
yeah,
And this woman is going to be writing the new Wonder Woman and
know.
Teen Titans movie. And so if the problem with this movie is her script and it's not the directing and editing and stuff like that, if you boil it down and you're like, this script is just not good, this should be raising alarm bells at
Yes,
DC.
I agree.
Because like, I don't know, the visuals definitely weren't great in this movie. The script is definitely the weakest part.
I agree. And like to me, I haven't seen a single like good enough excuse as to why the script is as low as it is.
Yeah.
And like especially when you're working with such strong source material. Like
Yes. It's right there.
like granted, like the comic takes place over like a long period of time, and like you can't really distill that into like a week-long adventure or like a weekend-long adventure. But like even just like the beats of the movie, like
Well,
just,
it really comes down to how you interpret this story.
Agreed.
And it's like that is what is so scary is Greg and the writer and James and the hundreds of other people that were involved in this movie all had this same idea of how the story was told, and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to say that because stories can be interpreted however you like, but it is clearly just they interpreted the story wrong.
Yeah.
And that is a tough pill to swallow.
and like look, it's still early in the DCU, and I understand the like, you know what, we still gotta like find our sea legs, and like
Yeah.
it's there. You had a strong opening with Superman. Supergirl is fine, but like my worry isn't that the DCU is just like not going to be as great as like the MCU, or it's not going to hit those same highs as like
Right.
Superman was. My biggest issue or my biggest fear is that Warner Brothers just got acquired.
I know.
And
I
if,
know.
And if I was the new owners,
You're
and
not
I-
going to get the chance.
you're like yeah, like if I was the new owners and like I had this massive IP that I was sitting on that has proven to be very financially like successful,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna walk in and be like, you guys had 2 movies and like the first one was great, the second one bombed. You have this third one that's coming out in the fall in
Yeah.
Clayface,
Yeah.
and if that movie fails, like it wouldn't shock me if the Ellisons came in and they said, you know what, let's just restart this. Like
Yes.
we have a chance to like reboot this whole thing. Let's pick a new Superman,
I-
which terrifies me.
It's absolutely terrifying because I think at least the idea that James Gunn had going into this is the best approach that DC has had
agree.
to their movies in a minute. But I have been saying this since James Gunn. I've been saying this since James Gunn got signed on to DC. His contract only goes to like 2027, and if there are problems or they get acquired, and now they have, it's just. I feel like what makes me really happy is Peter Safran. Even though I don't like that he immediately came out and
Yeah.
said something, I'm happy that that's the mindset that they have, because he came out basically 2 days after the movie released and they said, yeah, we know it's a bomb, but we're looking at it and we're seeing what works and we're seeing what didn't work, and we're going back to the studio and we are just going headstrong. This isn't slowing us down. This isn't stopping us. It's just a small hiccup. And it's like, you didn't need to say that 2 days in. You could have given this movie like at least a chance, but that is the mindset they should have. They should not say, oh my God, we are going to get canned. We have to like reboot this whole thing, give us a new Batman, and like,
Yeah.
you know, give us the safety net. Like,
And like, look, like the MCU has done the same thing where
Yeah.
it's like a good example of it is like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, right?
Yep.
You get the Mandarin, he's completely different than the comics. People are not necessarily happy with that. But then you get the chance to later like fix that error and like almost like make a story out of it
true.
that like transforms the character. And now like I love Trevor Slattery in
Yes.
Shang-Chi. I love
Yes.
Trevor Slattery in Wonder Man.
What-
And it's like
yes.
we wouldn't get that version if we didn't have the like quote unquote fumble that we got in Iron Man 3. And like that's why I'm very optimistic about where Supergirl is going, because they made that they drew the line in the sand where they're like, our Kara is a vengeful Kara.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I need you to lean into that and
Yep.
like give us the full arc, because
Yes.
you didn't do
No,
that in
she
the
can't
movie.
completely change character now.
I
Like,
agree.
if she's a completely different person in Man of Tomorrow, I think it's just going to make it even worse and show that there's, like, very little sign of direction. And I don't know if that needs to be, like, James Gunn needs to step away from directing and just be the vision guy, because clearly his vision of how this universe isn't happening. Like, Supergirl is just not doing what it should do. Or he needs to get someone else, you know, a Kevin Feige type who understands studios but also understands how to make the story work. Because the thing that really, really, really scares me is that Disney and Marvel will tough it out.
Mhm.
You know, like when they went through phase 4 and 5, they could have hung it up. They could have said, this is over, it's not working, like Warner Brothers has done, like countless times with their properties. But they didn't. They said, we'll take the L on this for a couple years, and now we're getting Spider-Man and Doomsday and all of, you know, they regrouped and we're back at it, and it seems like the hype is rebuilding again. Like, it's kind of like what you said. They just got acquired and stuff, and I just hope that Paramount will give them that grace and say, like, we still trust James Gunn, and we still want to see this universe develop, and just maybe give us Flash.
Yeah.
Maybe give us Wonder
That's
Woman.
the thing is,
you
like,
know?
you're sitting on a gold mine of characters. Like,
Right.
you have a Wonder Woman, like, you have the Wonder Woman IP, you have Flash, you have Batman. Like, you have all these big IPs that, like, could go somewhere.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the most baffling choice as to, like, why they, like, baffling, like, decision to me is, like, you chose Supergirl when you had Wonder Woman right there. But, like, granted, we just had a Wonder Woman movie not too long ago. Like, maybe
That was like a top 5 grossing movies
Yeah.
of all time. Like, you'd
Agreed.
think it's like, all right, let's run it back.
Right. And like, I mean, like what you were saying about, you know, Doomsday coming up and like Marvel taking the L, like that, I agree with you on that. But like to play devil's advocate a little bit, they did pivot. Like they pivoted
Yeah.
from Kang to Doom. They were like, we need
Yes.
a big money maker, and like we're gonna go for Doom instead of Kang. And granted, there were some other issues there, but like Kang is a character that they could have recast and it would have been fine. It would have worked with the
Absolutely, yeah.
story. And so like they did sort of decide like things aren't working, let's bring in a big bad that's like
No, but that's what I mean. Like, they were taking L's throughout all of phase 4 and
Agreed.
5, and people weren't liking the Kang lineup. They weren't really liking the multiverse stuff. They weren't really caring about the new characters that were being introduced. And so Marvel just said, okay, we're not going to reboot. We're not going to start over or anything, but we're pivoting. We're going to give you guys something that you actually want, and we're going to bring the hype back and stuff like that, but we're keeping it in universe. We're not starting over. You're not going to get a new Iron Man or a new Hulk. We're not saying, oh, yeah, you know what? We should have closed the curtains 5 years ago, 10 years ago when Infinity War and Endgame came out. It's like, it's just a low point, you know, when we're going to come back. And I want the DC, even though it's very hyperbolic because it's only 2 movies, I want the DCU to get that chance too. And say, even though one movie didn't do well, we don't need to, like, cancel this whole thing. And, like, we can still... I mean, it is Lanterns, though. Lanterns is the next project. Like, if we get 2 L's back to back, it's just...
it's starting
It's
to
gonna
scare
be
me.
tough.
Like, I mean, we can go on about Lanterns on a different show because like I have thoughts about what we're
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like my biggest fear is, let me restart. what I'm the most curious about is how much of this is actually James Gunn and how
Yeah.
much of it is like the infrastructure around him and like the studios, because like
I don't even think that matters. Like, he's put it where it's all him. Like, he is the face of it, and
he's the
it's
face
like
for sure.
he said, like, these are the projects that I'm green lighting and I'm approving the scripts for. And I hope he doesn't have that much say, and I hope there are people who are keeping him in check and like saying what they can and can't do. But it's like all the blame goes on him
It
if
does.
this fails.
Yes.
Like, Supergirl, he may have almost nothing to do with. He may just be the executive producer that did one run through and say, here's the song I want, here's the changes I want, and that's it. But like, I don't know if that's good enough.
It is kind of crazy that like James Gunn didn't direct Supergirl, but like the hate is going towards him.
Yes.
Like, he is the face of it, and like no matter what movie he makes next, like people will likely be like, well, Supergirl bombed. And it's like, he didn't direct that. But still.
And
like,
people are probably going to give if Clayface does well as like a smaller horror, they're not going to give James Gunn any credit for that. They're going to say this is what it's like when James Gunn isn't touching a
Yes.
project,
Like, we're already running long, but like give me your quick like thoughts on Clayface right now. Like, how are you feeling?
I'm very excited for it. I think it has potential to be a really good horror movie. I think after Supergirl, and then I'm even more worried about Lanterns, they're going to do revisions to it. Like, I think they already have reshoots coming up in the end of July.
Mhm.
And I think the only conversation in these boardrooms right now is, does Batman need to be in this movie?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess, where's your confidence level in Clayface? Because
High.
Really?
It's a low budget movie doing just like body horror like that. I think word of mouth will spread fast, almost like Obsession, and it'll be like, you gotta go see this creepy movie.
see, like, don't get me wrong, that is like, to me, like, that is my hope.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be that level of, like, hype, but like, I am worried because like when they first announced Supergirl and then when they first announced Clayface, like, not necessarily back to back,
Yeah.
but when they said that that's the movie they're going to do after Supergirl, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, they clearly have a grasp on characters. Like, they wouldn't be picking these more obscure characters if they didn't have a good story.
Yeah.
And now that I have the Supergirl story, I'm like
Oh.
way more worried about Clayface.
Yeah. I just like Clayface, Woman of Tomorrow, that's a very story, this is going to sound dumb, that's a very story-centered story where it's like there's a lesson in all of this and there's character growth in all of these moments that like really define the story. Clayface, I think while there can be a story there, I think it's going to be the practical and horror elements of this movie that are really going to sell it. And I think the story is probably going to be paper thin.
Yeah.
Like
It
I'm
doesn't
not,
need to be more than like tragic artist
Right.
becomes
just like struggling to deal with the fact that he's ugly and a monster now.
Yes.
It's like I don't think it needs to be anything deeper than that. So I'm not holding my breath for it to be like some crazy story or anything like that. Woman of Tomorrow is, I think, for most people, one of their favorite Supergirl stories. So it's like when you butcher beats and plot points, people notice.
Well, I agree with you. Like, Clayface definitely has the fact that it doesn't have like a strong footprint in most people's minds. Like, they
Yes.
don't really know Clayface outside of like probably Batman the animated series or Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah.
And it's like those are already two vastly different versions of Clayface.
Yeah.
And it's like there is a lot more wiggle room there than there was for Supergirl.
Exactly. I think if you just lean into it like like how Evil Dead does or Saw, these types of movies where it's like the story is like the second or third point of what these movies are actually trying to convey. Like it's just trying to make you feel uncomfortable and show you shocking imagery.
Yeah,
And
you're
I
looking
thi-
for shock value in that.
Yeah, and I think that's all Clayface really needs to do.
What's your over under on whether Batman's going to be in it?
If you had asked me before the Supergirl release, I would say under. I don't think he's going to be in it. I think it is almost impossible for him not to show up as a shadowy figure.
I was
going
going
to
to say, I was like, would you prefer him to be like, we see who the actor is, or like
Yeah.
just a shadow?
I think in this movie, ideally, my favorite version of Clayface would be like Batman keeps showing up, and
Yeah.
he's the villain that like doesn't actually fight, but like Clayface gets scared and runs away from it, and he's just constantly showing up. I think they'll do it how they did it in like Creature Commandos, where he shows up kind of shadowy, you see him for a second, and it's like you get the gist of what the rest of the scene is going to show you, and that'll be like the last scene.
Did you ever play? I can't remember what the name of the video game is, but it's like a game where like it's like an indie game where you're essentially a villain or like a
Yes, and you're hiding from him.
yeah, and like he kind of like pops up from the shadows. Like if we get that level of Batman, and we can, because that's the thing that I don't think we've ever really seen in a movie, like in a Batman movie, is that like how scary he can be.
Right. And I think Zach Krieger even talked about that last year, wanting to do like a Joker henchman movie where it's like, you know, Joker and Batman are these villains that keep just popping up and causing chaos. But I think James Gunn has been adamant from the very beginning that he doesn't want Batman in this yet, like at all. And
in a perfect world, yes.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's showing up in this. I think it's the board probably right now yelling at him every day saying put Batman in Clayface, and I hope he holds strong and we don't get it. I don't think Batman needs to be in that movie. I don't want Batman's first introduction to be in that movie.
I just don't want Clayface to be a spectacle. Like I think it's a movie that lives in this universe, and like I don't expect it to be like I don't like even before watching Supergirl, like I didn't expect Clayface to be like this like big movie.
Yeah.
Like I expected Supergirl to be. Like I expected Supergirl to be like a huge blockbuster, and like Clayface, like besides the budget, like I'm fully expecting it to just be like a very isolated corner of the DCU.
Now, do you think Supergirl gets a sequel?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we'll get a Supergirl sequel. I think we're going to see a lot more of her, obviously.
I think she'll be all over the DCU, but does she get a sequel?
Yeah, I'm...
Like, not the Super Family, or not like some groups, or like Legion of Friends.
Like, I'm fully expecting her to be, like, in a team.
Me too. Which is why I'm really wondering, like, is she going to get her own trilogy?
Yeah.
Or is this simply just a... let's hop on the hype of Superman and get Supergirl out there, and like, but this is her only movie.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that is the one benefit that the DCU, like Marvel really established themselves as a trilogy based like hero. Like the hero's going to get probably 3 and then a couple team ups and then maybe 4, you know, maybe. But like DC could do anything. It could be one movie, then it's team ups, then it's never again, or it could be 7 movies, you know?
Well, like my hope going into this movie, like before seeing it, was that Supergirl was going to be the like outer space version of Superman.
Yeah.
Like Superman would be very much like, I'm protecting Earth. Like this is my home territory. And Supergirl is like, I'm not that tied to Earth. So like I'm gonna go venture out, and like that was my plan. Or like my idea and like what I was expecting here. And like getting that, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like I love seeing her with Clark, and like getting that end scene where she goes back, you know, to Earth and she's talking to Clark and she's like, yeah, this is my home now. Didn't feel earned to me. Like there are plenty of Supergirl stories where she's like, she learns like why it's important, like why Earth means something to her. And like we don't get that here, and I think that's the only thing that's missing here.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have her return to Earth and like be an Earth hero.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing I want to bring up is that needle drop. Like, what did you think of the needle drop in Supergirl? Because for me, I felt disgusted as soon as I saw it happening. I was like, who approved this? Why is this happening? And no way James Gunn can be involved in this.
Okay. Had it not been the cover version of the song, like it would have worked.
I don't think so.
I love the original song. I think that had the same level of edge that we saw in like Superman. It would have felt more punk rock.
Yeah,
but, like
I saw an edit of someone doing that, and I do think it could work better, but I still just don't think it's the right song choice.
I agree. I just think that like that song choice was right there, and they decided to go with the acoustic version, and the acoustic version just, to me, undercuts the entire emotion of that like scene. And like I get what they were trying to do. Like it was very like listen, I love a girly pop moment. I'm here for it. That felt very much like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
It felt like they didn't get the rights to the actual song. Like
That's actually funny. I didn't think about that.
I don't know what they were thinking, or it either felt like that, or it has to be a song sung by a woman.
Which is fine, but there's so many other bangers.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, if that's the case where it needed to be a woman singing the song, why were you so adamant on this song? Like, there are so many great female empowerment songs sung by women.
It doesn't even have to be a female empowerment ballad. Like, it could just be a female like led vocal song, and like there's so many choices. Like the fact that they were promoting it with Blondie's
Dude, how did we not get Call Me as the
that's
drop?
what I'm saying. Like that would have easily been the needle drop to pick for that moment.
And that song immediately got stuck to Supergirl like Punk Rocker did to Superman. And it's like, okay, well, now you have the benefit of this just being the trailer song. Like, Punk Rocker was the end credit song for Superman, so you couldn't use it in anything, and it took till after the movie to that be associated with him. You have Call Me connected to Supergirl right now, and you don't use it once in this movie?
Yeah, in the entire film.
It doesn't make sense. And it's also like, do we even need a needle drop? Can it not just be a score? Like, can we not just hear the orchestra for a second? Like, Superman had such a good orchestra song set piece in the movie.
Yes, but they were also helped by John Williams' original score.
Of course, but it's like, use that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Supergirl, I don't know if they know this, Supergirl is related to Superman.
Wait,
like,
really?
you can like take themes and inspiration from his score and put it into Supergirl and make it like, I remember I was talking to someone before the movie came out. We were hoping her score would be like a more electric guitar version of the John Williams score, you know, with like some note
More
changes.
edgier.
Yeah, just edgier version of that. And like, I think even that would have hit more than this cover.
Okay, I don't know if you have anything ready, but I'm curious. If you could have picked the needle drop for that moment, what would it have been?
I mean, I hate to say it's just because we've already said it, but like, I think Call Me could have worked incredibly well just because of the advertising. But what do you have? I can think of another one.
I'm trying to think. Like, my thing is like, there's so many like massive, and like, granted, like maybe they didn't have the
Any
budget for it.
Paramount song, maybe?
Like literally anything from Beyonce. Like
Yeah.
like even just a pop track. Like it doesn't have to be anything punk rock. It could have been pop. It could have been as simple as, you know, picking something from like, I mean, Stevie Nicks is right there.
I know. See, the only reason I think it needed to be somewhere in the punk rock is because that's, again, how they marketed her as like, here's how she's different from Superman. Instead of look up, it's look out. Like she's
I'm just a girl,
she's hung
no
over.
doubt,
Yeah,
is right
dude.
there.
True. These are all so much better ones, and it fits who Kara is more. Like, and I do understand that it's from Ruthie's perspective
Sure.
that we're getting the needle drop. So maybe it doesn't need to be like very punk rock and stuff like that. But I still just think a somber acoustic cover, it's just cheesy, and especially
sorry.
because this is her only moment in the Supergirl outfit. It's the only big
That's what I'm
fight
saying.
she's getting. Like, this is your moment. This is Supergirl's moment.
Like even like you said, that's from Ruthie's perspective, and like if that's the case, that's great. But like no little girl's looking at this amazing blur of blue and red and being like, I'm thinking of
I'm
this
Ruthie.
like chill cover of this one song that I love.
No.
It's like no,
And I think it immediately takes you out of the fight sequence
Here's the
because
thing,
you're
you
like,
told
whoa.
me, because you had seen the movie before I had seen it, so
Yeah.
you had told me that there's a needle drop that bothered you. So like I was like already walking into this movie expecting something. I was still floored.
Yeah.
Like, cause like I was like,
It's
okay, maybe it was
shocking.
one of those last two, like maybe, like sure, whatever. And then when that happened, my jaw dropped. I was like, what are we doing here?
It feels like it's from a comedy movie. Like it really didn't fit, and it would almost be one of those moments where I would be okay with lost media, and if for the DVD they completely changed the song, like I don't think I would be mad. That was rough, and I remember in my theater, everyone was looking to the left and right, being like, "Is this real?"
Yeah.
And it was just like, yep, this is real. This is like an actual choice. And then we got to talk about Craig immediately throwing James Gunn under the bus, saying that needle drop was all James's decision.
That's the
It's
crazy
like,
part.
I can't believe that. I refuse to believe that the guy that has made so many needle drops and just has like a perfect music choice when it comes to movies chose that cover. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe him.
Stop. That's wrong. He didn't actually choose it. So James Gunn's choice was a different song.
Really?
Yeah, his choice, I'm gonna pull it up because I just read it. His version was "Girls Just Want to Have Fun,"
Oh, really?
which sucks.
Wait, I was seeing all these tweets saying that it was James choosing that one.
No, it says social
So
media
who chose
users,
that one?
Dunking on the movie's cover, the middle, the big needle drop in the final set piece at the February screening was a cover version of Cyndi Lauper's. That choice. So Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." That choice came from Gunn, but
Okay.
it ultimately was abandoned for the Jimmy Eat World cover.
But no one's taking credit for that.
Not in this.
I
Article.
swear to God, I saw an article with Craig saying it was James's choice. I could be completely wrong though. Whoever made that decision though to choose that cover,
Yeah.
fired. Get rid of him. That is not a good choice.
There's gonna be some intern that's like, "I'm sorry, I loved it."
Yeah, like that was my friend's cover. I'm sorry. I thought it just fit. Like it was just, and it's not even a bad cover. Like I saw the video of the girl who sang it. It's like it was a great cover. She did a
cover's
great
great.
job with it. But like, oh my God, what a bad choice.
Do you want to redo that, or are you cool with leaving all
No,
of that?
that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. But yeah, that's our episode for today. We got so many things coming up on the horizon after Supergirl, but we really just had to spend this episode diving deep into what went right and what went wrong with that movie.
Yeah, obviously there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out in the rest of the summer and also in the fall, and we're gonna be talking about all of that stuff. We're gonna be excited to dip back into some of the MCU stuff before we get to Doomsday. Spider-Man's literally a month away.
Yeah.
Like that is so exciting. We're gonna be super excited to talk about all that stuff with you guys. So tune in for that.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for watching. We hope to see you again next week. Peace out.
Bye.